Hello and welcome to another Deck Tech here on Cheapos MTG. Kaladesh has been out for around about a week now, as we've been brewing along, and today we've got another, we think, quite a fun deck, a synergistic deck for you. The main theme of this deck is artifacts, so let's dive in. We'll start with the creatures. We play 4 copies of Pia, 2 copies of Quicksmith Genius, and 4 copies of Smuggler's Copter. Pia and Quicksmith Genius have obvious synergies with artifacts, while Smuggler's Copter is a must-have in most aggressive decks, most artifact decks, to be honest, most decks. In the first weekend of Standard at the SCG Open, Smuggler's Copter was a 32 out of the top 8 decks, so 4 in every deck, and there's no excuse to exclude it from this one. So this deck is aiming to do something a little bit different to the other red decks that have sort of started to dominate Standard early. We're going for sort of a big red deck, Colossal red is what we've called it. Here we have some of the cards that help us to do that. We play 3 copies of Chandra, Torch of Defiance. A really, really good card. Both +1s are great, moves creatures, and if you get to that emblem, you're probably just going to win the game. The second +1 ability, the mana ramp ability, is really useful in this deck. As you can see, we have some pretty big, juicy creatures to get out there, so ramp is good. We play the Red Gearhulk and the Black Gearhulk. We also play Metalwork Colossus as a one-of. Metalwork Colossus is probably the reason we're playing a copy of the Red Gearhulk, to be honest. If your opponent chooses to take the damage from those 3 flip cards and you've got your 11 drop there, then they're kicking themselves. And a 6/6 first strike for 6 isn't awful. 2 Noxious Gearhulk, just some extra removal. It's a pretty good card, this card, so gonna definitely play it as we're playing black for other reasons as well. And as I mentioned, 1 copy of Metalwork Colossus. This is where the name of the deck comes from. The aim is to get this card out early and just start smashing with it. So if we want to get our Metalwork Colossus out early, we have to have ways to get it out, and its mana cost is reduced by non-creature artifacts, very key non-creature. So what artifacts do we play? Well, we have 2 Terrarian, 3 Cultivator's Caravan, and 3 Hedron Archive. The latter 2 are both just pure ramp. One's also a useful creature and a 5/5 body. The Hedron Archive will let you draw cards. Terrarian really is only here because it's a 1-drop and we don't have much else to do at 1-drop. It does replace itself as well, and it fixes your mana early on, so it has some other uses as well as just ramping out the Metalwork Colossus. In terms of artifacts, we also play 2 Key to the City and 2 Prophetic Prism. Prophetic Prism, much like Terrarian, fixes your mana early on, replaces itself. It's an artifact you're kind of willing to sack later on in the game to get your Metalwork Colossus back from the graveyard. So it's sort of a utility artifact. I think it's a pretty good card, to be honest. And Key to the City fulfills quite a few roles in this deck. It's a 2-drop artifact, so it reduces Metalwork Colossus's mana cost by 2. It allows you to effectively loot, so you can discard cards, for example, that have a madness cost, and it also makes creatures unblockable. If you have a 10/10 that you can make unblockable, then that's just a great combination in my books. And to round out the deck, we have some instants. All of them are removal. We play 3 copies of Galvanic Bombardment, because we don't really have that much to do early on, and against aggressive decks, we want to sort of stop our opponent getting a hold on the board. Play 4 copies of Fiery Temper. As I said with Key to the City, we have some ways to loot, which make the madness cost really good. In which case we're playing Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is a great card. And play 4 Unlicensed Disintegration. This is really the reason we're playing black in this deck, but it's a great removal spell. It has synergy with artifacts, in that if you have an artifact, it's a bolt to the face and destroys a creature. For me, it's one of the best removal spells in Standard, and I'd definitely play it in any deck that could. The land base is pretty simple. We play 4 Smouldering Marsh, 4 Foreboding Ruins. We also get to play 3 copies of Inventor's Fair. Playing it for the tutor effect for artifacts, we get to go find our 1 copy of Colossus or our Gearhulks. So it's a good utility land. There will be some incidental life gain along the way, but that's not the main reason for playing it. It's the tutor effect we're really interested in. And to round out the deck, we have a handful of basics and some Evolving Wilds to find them. 3 Evolving Wilds, 7 Mountains, 3 Swamps. Very simple. Could maybe play a few more utility lands. It's definitely something I'd test with. And now onto the sideboard. Standard sideboard. Caveat applies of it all depends on your meta. But here goes for a sideboard I'd look at. We have 1 copy of Chandra Flamecaller. I think this card's kind of going to get overlooked with the new Chandra, and it's still a very good card. We are fundamentally a ramp deck, so we can get our 6 drops out maybe a turn earlier. And it's a pseudo board sweeper. In fact, actually, it's just a board sweeper if you need it to be. It's great against other planeswalkers, good late game card. There are certainly games I'd happily have this Chandra over, say, one copy of the other Chandra. 3 Filigree Familiar against aggro decks if you want to increase the number of artifacts, though note this is a creature, so it doesn't reduce the Colossus, though you can sacrifice this to bring the Colossus back from your graveyard, so there is that synergy. And talking of sacrificing, number of artifacts works really well with Marionette Master. So if we're going to have a lot of non-creature artifacts around, Marionette Master coming in as a 4/6 that whenever an artifact goes to the graveyard, our opponent loses that much life, is really good in this deck. So we can sacrifice our artifacts like Prophetic Prism, our Terrarians, our Filigree Familiars to the Colossus, or to other cards in our sideboard, as you will see, and just keep doing 4 damage to our opponent. That's a really powerful effect. Talking of ways to sacrifice artifacts, we have 2 copies of Incendiary Sabotage in our sideboard that allow us to sacrifice artifacts. So this is a really powerful combination with Marionette Master. We play Incendiary Sabotage after we played the Master. We sacrifice an artifact we have lying around, whether it's a Filigree Familiar or a Prophetic Prism or something like that. We do 3 damage to every creature on the board, which the Master lives through, and then the Master does 4 damage because you have the Fabricate counters on the Master, obviously. And that does 4 damage to your opponent, which makes, I think, Incendiary Sabotage quite a good sweeper in that case. It's got a good combo in this deck. We play 3 copies of Collective Brutality as the closest thing to dress we currently have in Standard. There's this little discard outlet, so it works well with the Fiery Temper Madness cost, and there's going to be some games where the -2/-2 is going to be useful as well, so nice flexible card. 2 copies of Lost Legacy for against linear combo decks, great against decks that want to an Emrakul. Other decks like Aetherflux Reservoir decks that are starting to float around, really good against them. And we also have room for 2 removal spells in our sideboard. I've gone for Underhanded Designs. It has artifact synergy. It may be a bit overcosted for removal. It's effectively a 4-mana removal spell. But it also has the drain effect, so it can be useful in aggressive matchups, potentially. Certainly something I'd like to test with. So that's the deck tech for Colossal Red. Well, what do you think? Tell us in the comments. If you like the deck tech, then please like the video. Subscribe to the channel as well, though we do have plans for other deck techs, including a Esper Heavy Metal deck, is what we've taken to calling it. So that's all this time, and I'll hope to see you in future videos.